Hello, everyone. I am Leyland Simmons, the Director of Dance at the Harlem School of the Arts. Thank you so much for tuning in today for our second episode of our HSA At Home Dance Masters series. This was something that I wanted to do, as I had said last week. I wanted to bring in artists from around the world to just share their stories, share their journeys, you know, a space for them to just open up, to talk about their trials, their tribulations, their challenges. And so, last week we had the beautiful Aisha Ash with us, and she opened up and was just so honest. And this week we have another amazing guest. She is a Janice Levine winner. She is a recipient of the May Elween Award. She has danced internationally around the world, and she is a principal ballerina with the New York City Ballet. And she is our second guest here at our HSA At Home Dance Masters series, Conversations in Motion. She is the incredible Ashley Bouder. I'm going to bring her in now. Go live with her. There she
Hello.
is. Hey, Ashley, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for joining me. Our
Of
little
course.
informal space here online. COVID-19 has just shook the world, right? So
I
here we
know.
are, and just finding spaces and ways to continue conversations and, to talk about the art and but the beautiful thing is it continues no matter what. And
Yep.
so, yeah, again, thank you so much for being our second guest.
I'm always happy to just talk and have a conversation and, have human contact with people that I am not related to.
Yeah.
Hey.
Cool,
My
cool.
husband just said, hey.
Hey, husband. So how are you guys doing right now? Sheltering in and social distancing.
I think
How's it for you?
we're in week 9 or 10. I lost count. I don't really care.
Yeah,
I think from the beginning of it, we just went, this is it. This is where we are. I've always been kind of that person that's like, this is happening to me right now. This is
right,
happening. Like, I can't do anything about it. It's out of my hands. So I think, for me, that's sort of how I process things so I don't go crazy.
right.
I try to just let it be, do the best I can with the situation. Having said that, we got cats.
Oh, okay, nice.
Um,
Extending
we
the family.
we got a little like 6 month old Siamese who's sitting right next to me. I'll show you.
Oh,
There we go.
adorable.
This is Zelda.
Oh, hi, Zelda.
She's like 6.5, 7 months old now, I guess. And then we also got yesterday a 2 week old and no, not 2 week, 8 week old, 2 month old little boy, Siamese, who is running around somewhere, exploring our apartment still. So that's sort of how, like, what we've done. We thought, like, oh, we have all this time to bond with these cats, and we're gonna increase our family, and we get to introduce the cats to our 4-year-old daughter, who probably needs a little sensitivity training.
Oh, hopefully she's enjoying the extended family.
Yeah, but I've been teaching a lot. I have some open classes that I've been teaching that people can sign up for. I've been doing through Manhattan Youth Ballet and Pennsylvania Youth Ballet and Ballet Academy East here and there, and teaching private lessons. So I have sort of created a schedule for myself that I try to stick to.
Yeah.
So that, I feel like I have a purpose.
Yeah, it's important to do that. I'm discovering,
Yeah.
for some people who aren't able to do it or not doing that. I know, like, I'm so lucky that I'm able to create a schedule for myself, or just because of my, the job, I'm like super busy. So
Well,
I've
and
got something going on every day.
exactly. And my husband is like, he's like a regular person, so he does consulting, so that work kind of dried up. So he's been somebody who has, doesn't need a routine, or doesn't have a routine anymore, doesn't have anything to do. So he and I together have been doing the Shanti Insanity workouts.
Oh yes, those are intense.
They're very
Man.
intense. We're on day 15.
Yeah, nice.
We, but it's good because we get to push each other. We get to stay in shape.
Yeah.
There's something that we can do together each day, and we're trying to be healthy and, work towards some sort of fitness goal.
Right.
And I find it so funny that I'm a ballet dancer. I can dance all of these hard ballets, and
Right.
I feel like my stamina is fine. Like I can
Right.
get through these crazy hard balancing ballets, and I do one of his workouts, and I feel like I need to take a 5-hour nap. And I don't even get through some of the workouts. Like I don't get through the exercises. So.
Yeah, no, they're exhausting. I've done my Shanti over this COVID, season, and it's not. Oh, it's painful. I definitely.
He's
feel
awesome, though. I really love him.
Yeah, no, he is amazing. So I guess I want to talk about, talk to me about the very beginning. How did you find yourself in dance, or how did dance find you? I know you're from a small town in Pennsylvania. How did this come to be?
I am from a very tiny town in Pennsylvania called Carlisle.
Okay.
But they just happen to have one of the best ballet schools in the world,
Right?
In that town. I was born there. It was very lucky. My mom went to CPYB when she was younger for about 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's sister went there for a
Wow.
couple of years when she was younger. So I had it on both sides of the family.
Right.
Ironically, I wasn't raised to dance or do anything. I started when I was 6. And only because my mom and I ran into Marcia in the shopping mall.
Wow.
We were shopping, and they stopped and chatted, and I hid behind my mother, and then I asked her who that was, and she said that was my ballet teacher, and I was like, what's ballet?
Yeah.
And I also always wanted to be my mom, so when I found my mom had done ballet, I was like, I'm in.
Right.
Let's go do it. And it was apparently so annoying that she had to take me within a few days to go look at what ballet was. So I remember, because I grew up as a kid that my grandmother taught me how to read when I was very young and sat with me, and that's what I love to do. I was like a little bookworm.
Right.
And I went to watch a rehearsal, and Marcia was sitting in the front, and I remember coming in. I guess my mom must have called Marcia and asked if we could come, and it must have been around Christmas time because Marcia gave me something. She sat with me. She explained everything that the dancers were doing. And then she took off her necklace and she gave it to me.
Wow.
And it said Season's Greetings with a sleigh on it. So it had to be around the holidays.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know, maybe a little weird she was wearing it. But she gave it to me, and I still have it somewhere. But I think that just got me hooked. I was like, this lady loves me. Let's do this.
Yeah. So that's so powerful because, I think about the power of teachers and mentors and, how influential they can be on their students. And that, that definitely embodies the influence that Marcia had on you. I mean, for those who don't know, like she said, Marcia has produced so many amazing dancers who are dancing around the world, and she's left such a powerful legacy. And to know that you are from there, and to know that she really supported you. I mean, was there anything else that she instilled in you?
Well, I still, every time I do a ronde jambe en l'air, I still can feel her hands. I feel her shoulder pushing against my butt so it doesn't go out. She
Wow.
on the floor, and her elbow on my knee, and having her hand on my foot, pointing it so it didn't sickle, and doing the ronde jambe for me, and literally using her body. I must have been so tiny.
Yeah.
She could do that because she was a pretty tiny person too.
Right.
But I remember her pointing my foot and doing all of that stuff. And actually, when I was younger, I was telling this story the other day. I think I was maybe 8 years old, 7, 8 years old. And there was a production that CPYB did in conjunction with Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, I think. And there were little kids in the production, but I was too little to be in it. And, of course, I was all upset. but Marcia knew that I had never really seen performance live. So I spent the night at her house.
Okay.
And when I got up in the morning, she bought me a dress with a white turtleneck underneath. And for anybody who has seen Marcia, it was literally exactly something that she would wear.
Wow.
And a little bunny that matched my dress, like a blue quilted dress. And she took me to the ballet.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And she gave me my first experience in the audience. And I just remember sitting there, like in the front row, like, wow, like I need to be up there.
Yeah.
So
Such a beautiful story.
yeah, I mean, I had been on stage, but I had never been in the audience.
Okay.
And I think that she wanted to give me that different perspective.
Mhm.
She was also a teacher that that made us really well-rounded. So there were a lot of us that she literally made into teachers. She would, at a certain age or when you were a certain level, she would pick people and she would make them come in as helpers for the beginner students.
Right.
And then, you know, at a certain point, maybe your last year or two, she would give you a class to teach on Saturdays.
Oh, okay.
And I remember taking, when I was maybe like 9 years old, my morning class was taught by Carrie Imler,
Okay.
who went on to become a principal dancer at Pacific Northwest Ballet. And I got to teach like a beginner intermediate level at 9 a.m. every Saturday my last year there. So she not only taught us how to be dancers, but she taught us the importance of being good teachers as well.
That is really, really, really beautiful. I mean, because, you know, that information only helped you as you transitioned to New York. You know, you found your way to the School of American Ballet. Now, what was that transition like? Because, you know, you're coming from small town, CPYB, now to the big city, dancing at the School of American Ballet. You know, how was that transition? And then you slowly finding your way into the company. Talk to me about that.
Well, I think I came in thinking like, I don't know any of these kids. They're from all of these. I only knew, we had done these regional Dance America festivals and we were always the best school there, but we're from like a small area of the country.
Right.
So I was like, I don't know what's out there. And there's people coming from different countries. And,
Yeah.
you know, I had been in class like at CPUAB with Leslie Hench, one of our teachers, and she would give like a Mariinsky class, like a Vaganova Academy class. And she would give a opera ballet school class. And I thought that those were insanely difficult.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I don't know what's going to be there from these other parts of the country. And I was also, when I came to the summer, I did a private audition in New York because we're so close we could drive up. And there were like 10 girls in the class or something. And I was not placed in the highest level. I was 15. And so that was a little bit, also knowing going in that they didn't see me as the highest level. I was like, ooh, ego check. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I got moved up to the highest level after 3 days.
Right.
And, but I also went into that, like really intimidating and looking at the people around me, and Megan Fairchild and Tess Reichlin were already in that class. And I remember looking at them going like, well, what are they doing over there? Or am I doing the right thing? And I got asked to stay for the year pretty quickly in the summer program too, but I try to come in with the same mentality that it's like, these girls have been here much longer than you.
Yeah.
I came in and they said, oh, you're either level C2 or D. So you're second highest level or highest level. We don't know yet. And they told a lot of people that. And everybody who was on the Bouder and the people who were in C2 all went on the first day of the C2 class. And then I had a little something that didn't put me in the people in the highest level didn't really like me when this event happened. Suki Shore came in the room and the class was huge. And we knew that they had to move people up and down and all around. And they just kind of put all these people in C2 so they could kind of judge everyone on where they should be, like place them.
Yeah.
And we all came in and I was still sitting on the floor and I was like standing on the end of a bar. I didn't even have a real bar space. There were too many people. And I was still sitting on the floor and I'm pretty little and I was in the back.
Yeah. So,
came in and Suki's like, oh, this class is really big. As you know, like some of you will move up, some of you move down. We're not sure, we just want to place you. And she goes, where's Ashley?
Why are you wearing your necklace?
Violet, I'm talking. Okay. Um, there she goes. No, Violet, I'm on a live thing. Go with Daddy, please. Go watch your movie. Um, so she goes, "Where's Ashley?" And because my name is so popular, I've always grown up with like 4 other Ashleys in the same class. So I never answered to Ashley. It was always Bouder.
Bouder, right.
And she goes, "Ashley Bouder, where are you?" In this like kind of like tone. And I stood up and I was like, "I'm here." I was like, "Am I actually gonna move down?" And she goes,
right.
"You go to level D."
Wow.
And I was like, "Okay." And every single girl looked at me like, and I was like, because I was brand new. Most of them didn't even know me. And so I just picked up my bag and I walked in, and it was Susie Pilar teaching class, but she had already started. And so like I walked in the front of the room and everybody turned and looked at me. They're in the middle, please. And Susie had saved me a spot because she knew it was going to happen, and it was in the front center bar.
Oh,
She was give you a spot. So I stand front and center, and I was like, "Oh no." But that was the beginning of SAB, and I just tried to. I was also so much younger than everybody in that level too, which didn't really help. But I was able to make some really good friends.
That's great. Yeah.
Who were closer to me, like Glenn Keenan, who got in the company with me. We were the same year together, and we're still friends. And she's a ballet master now, so she actually coaches me now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that competition in the ballet school in the dance world, it can be quite challenging and can bring anxiety. What do you do, in regards to anxiety? I don't know if you deal with anxiety, but a lot of our students deal with anxiety. And I don't know, like if you ever get anxiety, what is it that you do? I mean, because you're a principal ballerina, so, what are the challenges of being a principal ballerina and then the added pressures of the anxiety that might come with it and the competition?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be somebody that does something better than you. It's not, you're never going to do everything better than everyone else.
Right.
But you have your things, you have your things that you're good at. I think that it's, when I was young, like in the company and I was getting a lot of roles, I usually just kept my head down and didn't say or do much. I got bullied a lot. It became kind of tough. And I think people thought that I had a big ego. But it's just that I didn't open up to anybody because I didn't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
So I got, a lot of people thought I was just a little full of myself, even though it was just me like building
That's
a wall.
interesting because a lot of our students have experienced bullying and they talk about, the shell that they have to put up, especially if they're in communities that don't support the arts and they want to sing and they want to dance and they're the only one. And that isolation that comes with that. I mean,
it's the isolation, but it's also the like, oh, you're too good to like talk to me or like be to me. And I'm like, I would just rather not because I've been hurt quite a lot. So I'm just going to like live in my bubble. Thank you.
Right.
Which actually is why I find it extremely important. You sent me your list of things that we might talk about, and I thought this was such a good one. I think it was one of your last ones, so I wanted to pop it in that it is extremely important for people in the arts to have friends that are not in your field. And maybe not even in the arts, but it's really, really important because if you're a ballet dancer and your friends are only ballet dancers, the competition is not healthy. I'm not saying you can't have lots of ballet friends.
Right.
Bill and some of my best friends are some of my colleagues.
Yeah.
But you can't have only that. You have to be able to be upset about something or, admit that you're jealous of somebody else's role or go through that bullying and be able to step away and have a support system outside that you can tell things to, but they're not in it with you. So it's not like they can just listen, it's not like, oh, well, you should do this or you should do that.
Right.
They don't have to absolutely understand all of the ins and outs of your field. Sometimes it's just nice to be able to, like, I come home to my husband, he's in finance, and I tell him things and he's like, okay. He's like, I don't know what this one thing meant, but that's
Right.
okay. And he just, he lets me do that. And you have other interests too,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
People who have like, who are outside have other hobbies, other interests that maybe you'll be into also. So that's actually one thing that I wish I had done when I was younger. I didn't figure
Mm.
that out until like my late 20s.
Right. Yeah, because you can be so immersed in the world and in a company or in just a dance profession or a show,
You're
and
like,
it's
you're in this,
psychologically
yeah,
like if you
you're in
don't
a
step away
bubble.
from that. Yeah.
And
So I think that's
and
really
as
good.
like transitioning from a student to a ballet dancer, your day goes from half your day being ballet to your entire day being ballet. You take class
Hmm.
at 10:30 in the morning and you get off the stage at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't leave much time, but you have to make a concerted effort to do it,
Right.
to just go out and meet people or keep the connections that you already have from school or from wherever. Because there are tons of people in the ballet school. If you make it as a ballet dancer, there's tons of people in your ballet school that don't end up being ballet dancers, but they're still do really cool things, and
Yeah.
they're your friends. So
Yeah.
even if they move away, or anything like that, I've reconnected a lot with high school friends
Mm.
because I moved away when I was 15. I only did 1 year of high
Right.
school at home,
Right.
but we're a small town and we all go to school together from the beginning.
Right.
So
I think
I've
it makes you
reconnected a
a
lot.
well-rounded person too, so that you're
Yeah,
not, your conversation is just not so one-dimensional. So,
yeah.
um, you danced Balanchine Works. What is it about the Balanchine Works and the rep that you enjoy so much? I mean, you've been dancing Balanchine Works for so long. I mean, what is it about
I like the speed.
speed? Yes.
I like the speed. I do all of the extremely technical ballets.
Yes.
Um, that's my thing. I'm not. Let's just say adagio is not my best thing.
Hmm.
And I've had to work so much on it because there is adagio in so many things. And I do actually really love doing adagio. I am just built for speed.
Yes.
I'm a little bit stocky. I'm muscular. I'm short. I have small feet. So going fast is really easy for me. But I love the speed of Balanchine and the way he does the timing. He
Right.
always makes the steps fit so that you can do your timing. And
Mm.
nobody else does it the same as you.
Nobody else. Yes.
And you can hold here, you can hold there, you can speed through a step and then balance, or you can balance at the beginning and then speed through the end. And
Yes.
it always sort of makes these series of steps that just, number one, makes so much sense. But number two are you can just
I love it.
play the whole time.
I love
And
it.
that's,
The freedom that you have. Yeah.
yeah, there's
In the-
ballets like Ballo della Regina or
yes.
Donizetti Variations that there are little sections of it that I feel like I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I go out there, but I know
Right.
it's going to be perfect. And sometimes I'll hit a balance and I'm like, oh, did you see that? And they always kind of make me like internally giggle.
Yes, yes. So, okay, I want to pop this up. Now, tell me about this. Now, this is you dancing something. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Something more classical. Now, talk to me about that the versatility that comes with having to dance something that's more classical. I mean, first of all, it shows how strong of a dancer you are to be able to transition into something so classical. But because you dance neoclassical works for long periods of the year, so is there a way that you approach your training a little differently when dancing more classical rap?
I think so. I actually I I literally just harped on this today with two of my students because I had one student that was holding her arm like way up to the side during bar, and I was like, "Listen, you have to hold it lower than you think because you hold it here to the side, you're going to be here on stage, and then you're going to be under your arms. So you have to hold lower because when you get that energy and that adrenaline, everything is bigger."
Mm.
And I'm somebody that I get so excited on stage.
Yeah.
Something happens to me the minute I step out on stage, and I am like a burst of energy. And
Right.
I had to be told to calm down before. I have been told that I'm a lot harsher than I think I am sometimes in my movements when I want to punctuate something.
Yes.
And it's because I am literally, I'm so excited to do it and I have so much energy that I can't help myself.
Yeah.
And I could be literally dead asleep. Actually, I'll tell you this story. This is very funny because I did actually fall asleep once. We were in, it sounds so unprofessional, but it's very funny. We were in Saratoga Springs with New York City Ballet, and it was like Friday night of a long week. I think I had every show. I was doing these hard ballets and dancing all day, and it was hot. It's like it's an outdoor theater, and it's like over 80 degrees every day, so it's just exhausting. And I had Stars and Stripes, and it's the last ballet in the program.
Yes. Now I want to talk about that though, because when I saw you do Stars and Stripes in workshop, ladies and gentlemen, she slayed it at 15. Her Stars and Stripes was like a rock concert. Okay, continue.
Well, this like fast forward probably like 10 years from workshop. And, you know, Stars and Stripes has a small girls regiment, a tall girls regiment, and a boys regiment. And so it's about 15, 20 minutes before you go on stage. And it was the last ballet. And at that point, we were starting performances at 8:15. So it's the third ballet of the night. So you can imagine it's probably like 10:30 at night. And I put on my costume early, like I always do, because I usually like to watch. But there, on stage, right where I enter for the pas de deux, the where you scrape your point shoes and put your bras on and everything is outside of the stage area. You have to go through a door to get to backstage because that backstage area is pretty small.
Right.
And I was very tired, so I put my point shoes on and I sat down. I got up on the table. And I sat down with crossed legs, what my daughter calls crisscross applesauce.
Okay.
And I sat there and I put my head back on the wall and I went, out.
Yeah.
Cold. I heard the beginning of the ballet start and I fell asleep.
Oh my gosh.
And I woke up as they were finishing the second regiment. So I had probably been asleep for like over 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I got up and I was like, oh my gosh. I had just the boys regiment.
Yeah.
To get ready. And I was like, well, thank God I woke up now. Like they would have been looking for me. Like, where
is she?
Where's Bouder?
Right.
And I got up and I like was like, oh, okay. I was like, you have to turn it on. This is a fireworks kind of ballet. And this is the end of the night. And I went out there and I had so much energy. And my ballet mistress, Sally Leyland, came back and she goes, that was the best performance I've ever seen you do of that.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, Sally, I fell asleep during the girls' regiments.
Oh my God. Your power nap.
I did. I took like a power nap.
Revitalized you. I love it. These are stories that people just don't know. It's great to hear these stories, you know, from artists.
I don't like, I fell asleep sitting up with my point shoes on.
Yeah. It's great. So I want to ask, you know, you've been very outspoken throughout the years with some of your views, you know, around women's rights and political issues. I'm just curious, you know, have you ever experienced any backlash from some of your outspokenness? And I know that even on your Instagram page, you say, you know, my views do not represent those from where I work. I'm just curious, have you ever experienced any backlash?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think some white male choreographers don't work with me anymore.
Wow. It's interesting that you say that because, you know, we talk about choreography throughout the years and even now, you know, it's so white male dominated, you know, and people don't like to talk about it, but it is. It is
well,
what it is. I mean,
one of the bigger issues now that we have is not the hiring of non-white men, right? Because that's what we're really talking about. We're talking about gender and racial equality and putting that inclusive lens on it too, because not everybody fits in a box.
Yeah.
But like talking about a box is that, you know, companies will hire a black man or they'll hire a woman, and they will check the box.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it.
Right.
But what I've seen over and over again, in literally every company, white men putting out mediocre work, and then they get to choreograph on that company again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's, you know, and it's just like really strange. I see like I said this example the other day, and I just love this choreographer, Annabelle Lopez Ochoa. She's choreographed
Yeah,
on
she's beautiful.
50 companies,
Right.
over 50. And to get the experience that she's needed to create a masterwork like her Frida took that.
Yeah.
But then you see people, white men, and I definitely don't want to trash them and say anything bad about them because I believe that they are, all three of these men are amazing choreographers and they've been written about a lot, is Wielden, Rotmansky, and Peck.
Right.
And you see them come out with these masterpieces so much earlier.
Yes. Yes. They're nurturing
Because
for it. Yeah.
they get the chance over and over and over again with the same dancers and the same companies.
Yes, they
Like
are
Justin
nurtured,
has created
supported.
so many ballets on New York City Ballet, but he also keeps going back to Miami City Ballet and he keeps going back to San Francisco Ballet so that he understands how to adapt and change for different styles, for different people. And he doesn't just work with the same group of dancers, he works with the same group, the same groups.
Yes.
And Rotmansky has the same. He works Bolshoi, ABT, New York City Ballet. Like it's, you know,
The best companies in the world, and
yeah. And Chris had New York City Ballet and Royal Ballet. That those two very different styles and honing their skills. And no wonder they create masterpieces. They are great choreographers. They've got a lot of great ideas, and they've been able to have all of the successes with all of the
yeah.
kind of push to the side. Let's forget about that ballet because they've made such a volume of work on the same groups of people.
Yeah.
So it's, I think now like our focus has been on hiring, you know, people who aren't white men. We're hiring and hiring and hiring, but we have to rehire. And that's
Right.
a really big thing for me right now.
Yeah, and it comes from the top too, you know, they have to be open to going against the grain and you know, and for you, you know, what you said, something so powerful is that you don't feel like, you know, you've been able to do certain ballets now and work with certain dancers because you've been outspoken. You know, how do you find the courage to keep pushing? Because that can be kind of painful, right?
Yeah.
Here you are, a principal dancer, and they've already X'd you out and crossed you out to be able to work with certain choreographers, you know, which can ultimately help propel your art and allow you to, you know, grow in what you do. You know, how do you find the courage to keep going? Because, you know, some people don't have the thick skin like that. Some people get frustrated and they quit, you know.
Well, I think I've always, because of my early bullying
Yeah.
in my mid to late teens and early 20s, I think that I developed a really thick skin.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, you know, if you don't want to reach out and work with me, then you lose. Like you lose.
Yeah.
And if you want to label me as difficult or loud,
Right. Well, if you were a man, they wouldn't label you as difficult.
no, no, or you know, or harsh or abrasive or whatever the words that you know I've heard attached to me. If you want to label me that way, then that's you. That's your that. I mean, what you think and how you act towards others is more a reflection of you than that person.
Yeah.
So, you know, people are kind to my face, but I can see that layer underneath sometimes.
Right.
Right. And you know, their actions of not putting me in any of their new pieces when I used to work with them speaks volumes. Maybe not to everyone. Maybe people don't notice, but I notice. And you know, I think that's part of you know, the tradition of white patriarchy.
Right.
But it's also I think that it's part of the unwillingness to acknowledge privilege.
Of course.
And I think that there are, you know, actually a good friend of mine, like I got in such a shouting argument with him because he didn't feel privileged, but he came from wealthy parents and he's white and he hasn't, you know, he makes his own money and he's very, very, very successful. But I was like, you don't think that it was easy for you to get into the college you went to? Parents paid for it?
Right.
You don't think it was easy for you to start out in life? You don't think all of these things There's all of these things that you just don't see, and you don't see until someone points them out to you. But then when someone points them out to you, you don't want to listen to that person anymore.
Right, right.
And so I think we're sort of at this status where that the people of privilege need to help out or listen to or keep working with the people who are calling out the privilege and the people who don't have it.
Right.
Which is like sort of why I feel so outspoken, because I'm a woman, so I feel underprivileged in that way, but I'm white.
Right.
So I've had a lot more opportunity, or it's just been easier
Mm-hmm.
for a lot, just for me to even just fit in and feel.
And that's powerful that you're like, you're able to say that and, you know, openly say that, you know, because some, you know, some white people they can't say that. They feel very uncomfortable saying that, you know, that reality and that honest reality check, you know, I mean,
Well,
so
yeah.
kudos for you for that
And
honesty.
and I've talked to people, you know, about these things, and sometimes like I say the wrong thing because I just have never been forced to see it. But I really like when somebody will be like, no, you can't say that, or no, I don't feel this way, or you know, or whatever it is, so that I can have my reality check of like, okay, white woman, you didn't consider that, or you didn't
Right.
see that. And there are tons of things that I'm still learning and still acknowledging. And I like the learning process of that. I'm a learner. I love to learn.
Yeah.
Um, but I also like love to advocate for people that need it.
Right.
Because I think like, if you're a minority and you try to take on this big system, you're going to lose.
Mm.
Unless you have people within that big system that understand or are willing to listen and are willing to help you change it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't have the little guy fighting the big guy, and it's just not gonna, it's never gonna change.
Yeah.
So you have to have people within the system, and that's why I feel like I'm also in this kind of unique position of being within this large institution, New York City Ballet, but creating my own company outside of it. So using what I gained from being in this large, mostly white patriarchal
Yes. Environment system. Yeah.
but I gained a lot of power just by being in that position, just by making it to principal dancer and gaining, you know, my fan base, and being able to have people listen to me and care about what I'm saying. And then so now I can take that voice and that strength to help something else, to help causes that I really
Beautiful.
strongly believe in.
Beautiful, beautiful. So now I want to talk about, with that being said, I want to talk about the Ashley Bouder project, because I know that's your baby. And, you know,
Yeah.
I know that was birthed, you know, through your experiences and your just understanding of life and the world and the systems of oppression and whatnot. So, you know, can you just share a little bit about the Ashley Bouder project?
Yeah, well, I kind of started it as like a little pet project because, you know, as ballet dancers, you're just always told which choreographer to work with, which dancers to dance with. You don't have a lot of say. And there were just choreographers that weren't coming into New York City Ballet that I wanted to work with. And there were people I wanted to dance with, and I wanted to do different stuff. And so I started it that way. And about a year after I did that, there was a poster at New York City Ballet advertising our fall gala, and they made it in black and white, and there were 5 new pieces on the program, 5 new choreographers, and they were 5 white men.
Right, right.
But because the poster was in black and white, they all looked kind of identical, which made it even like
more eerie. Yeah.
bigger statement.
Yeah.
And the New York Times wrote about it. So I wasn't I saw it. I walked around the front of our theater one day and I saw it and I was like, are you kidding me? And had I seen the names written out on paper and all of that, which I had, didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about it at all. But then seeing the images, I was really shocked. And I was like, what is happening? We are supposed to be one of the most, like, we're supposed to be leading the way. New York City.
Right.
We're supposed to be on the cutting edge of everything that is like artistic and right.
Right.
You know, like Balanchine making the Agon Pas de Deux with Arthur Mitchell, Jerome Robbins making opus jazz with the black man and the white woman in like the 50s that like didn't really happen. Like
Right.
our founding choreographers
Yeah, where's the evolution now here in
played
2020? Yeah, it's like,
yeah, they played like a leading role in changing the way people saw race.
right.
And then it disappeared. So I was like, and I didn't really realize until I saw that image how much I cared.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, 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 no. Where are the women? Where is the diversity? Like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
And so I changed the mission statement of my company to be diversity, inclusivity, and equality driven.
Good for you.
And I decided that I basically wasn't going to hire white men as choreographers.
All right. Well, good for you.
Uh, and I've had so many white men choreographers reach out to me and say, I would love to make a piece for you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't want to be like reverse racist or whatever the term is you call it. But I really can't hire you because it just doesn't sit right. You have plenty of opportunity other places.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And I'm such a small company. I want to give the opportunity to choreograph with my company to people who really need it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I do performances in New York, at the Joyce and places like that. So I have a loud voice. Hopefully people listen when I talk, or I'll just shout it at you anyway. But I've always sold out my performances, and I've always been very conscious of who I'm hiring, both choreographers and composers, and also my dancers.
Yes, good for you.
I try to make everything as diverse as possible, and my musicians and everyone literally that works with us, costume designers, everything. I try to make as equal. You're never going to be equal, but I'm always looking for somebody new to work with, somebody who doesn't look like me, who and doesn't like the same things I like.
Right.
I'm always trying to find those new people to work with.
Well, good for you. I mean, I hope that attitude and that energy and that spirit will transfer and eventually transfer to where you also work at New York City Ballet, because, it's time for change.
I hope. I'm pretty loud about it. So
have there been many incidences or, where you felt like, okay, I have to speak up against this, or,
there are like systematic things that I think people don't see, and that happen to dancers, especially the women of color in our company.
Yeah.
I have sort of become like a support system for them.
It's okay.
It's probably just a package. We're the ground floor in the back, so we get the buzzer.
Right.
When people want to be let in the building to drop off an Amazon package.
Right.
But I've sort of become like a support system for these women, and a lot of times they come to me, and a lot of times when I see something and I know they feel uncomfortable, I go and I talk to them about it.
Great.
And I have lots of conversations actually with India Bradley about brown tights.
Yes.
And actually, wait, I'm gonna get something, and I want to show you something.
Okay, show me.
I forgot to get it. It's right here. Yeah. Okay, so when I came to teach for you, and I walked in the room, and all the girls had on brown tights,
yes.
I was so happy because I had never taught up at Harlem School of the Arts, and I didn't know, and all I see are the black and brown girls at places like SAB wearing pink tights.
Right.
And I had this conversation with India Bradley, who's a core member at New York City Ballet, a lot.
Yeah, no, she was a student of mine at Dance of Harlem, so.
Yeah. So, and I've had this conversation with Andrea Long too, about wearing brown tights, and I'm like, would you feel comfortable? Like, I think that pink tights are sort of a representation of like my skin color.
Right.
Supposed to elongate the line. Pink point shoes, pink tights, and so you're it kind of goes with white skin.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are not white, then you're wearing something that's breaking your line.
Yes, yes.
So I've had this conversation that, you know, like if you're in symphony in 3 movements, and when you open the curtain goes up, it's a line of 16 girls or women in white leotards.
Mm-hmm.
India's like, well, she's the only very dark skinned woman in the company. All of the other women are much lighter.
Yes.
Or they're mixed, and she is very brown, like dark brown.
Right.
And she said, well, I would want to wear the pink tights because I don't want to be the one brown pair of legs. And I was like, yes, I totally get that. Like, you would definitely not want to be sticking out of there. And I said, but what if you were doing like the Agon Parada and you were by yourself?
Right.
And she was like, oh, brown. And so I was like, okay. So it's about quantity. It's about getting a more diverse group of people in. And then if there were 8 people who weren't white and 8 people who were, which that's not actually diverse.
Right.
But if you had more sets of brown legs, then all of a sudden the uniformness would still be there.
Right.
You don't have the one pair. It's like Andrea Long in the Nutcracker video, and she's in snow, and she's so dark, and everybody's white, and the costume's white, and the snow is white, and the backdrop, like, you're just like, there she goes. But if you had, you know,
more,
just,
right?
Yeah, more, like, with more dancers that look like them,
right.
Which we should have. But what I did want to show you was here. I wrote a book, a children's book, and I was approached to write a book because the editor at Porto Publishing kind of was researching who I was and asked me, she's like, we want a diversity and equality and inclusivity driven children's book about ballet.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can totally do that. All I read are children's books because I have like a 3-year-old.
Right.
So my book comes out in August, but what I asked for, well, this is the cover, but this is not what the cover is going to look like now.
Okay.
The initial illustration. But now she's going to have brown tights.
Ah, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. I think she also has brown tights. I have to actually look, but I was like, okay, so we have, I made all of the children look different. I have a Korean boy, a Mexican boy, an Indian girl, a black girl, and Violet.
Right.
My daughter's in it.
Yes.
And we were going through all the illustrations, and I was like, you know what? Like, I don't like the way this looks.
Yes, yes.
Like, I need her to have skin color tights.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, if we really want to make this right, I was like, this is not the representation. I was like, this is the representation that we see in most major ballet schools.
Right, right.
That is not what I want. That's not the way I think it should be. And that's not what I want to show.
Yeah.
So I changed it.
And that's great that you're conscious of that, you know, and that you're going to wait. You're going to say, okay, wait, I'm going to make this change. Because representation is so powerful, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
And good for
I
you.
actually texted India a picture, and I was like, look what I did. And she was like, yes, thank you. And I was like, I know, this is like how it should be always.
This is how it should be. It is. Well, I want to just, talk about, since you brought her up, Violet, talk to me about Violet. Talk to me about motherhood. Talk to me about, women in dance and in ballet. I feel like now there's more support for women, having children, before they're ending their careers, but like mid-career. Talk to me about that, because I feel like you're part of that movement. You've been so, some people kind of hide their children, but you have not. You've been a ballerina who's like, this is my baby.
Yeah. I'm like, this is my baby. Look at her. She's awesome.
Yes. I love that.
And I think she is awesome. She's a little crazy right now. She's 4 and she has so much energy. I can't keep up.
Yeah.
But she also does her own thing. And as you can see, she comes up and she doesn't listen. But yeah, I always wanted to have kids. And I've never been somebody who is a strictly play by the rules kind of person. And yeah, like I knew a lot of ballerinas had kids, despite what people say about Balanchine of not letting his ballerinas have kids. An awful lot of them did, like Allegra Kent, Melissa Hayden, Karen Von Alderman, Patty McBride. You know, a lot of them really did have kids and dance and come back. So, you know, there was that example, although it, you know, wasn't spoken about a lot.
Right.
You know, I had a couple examples when I got in the company. Darcy Kistler had a baby, and Kira Nichols. And I kind of thought, like, I can do that. Like, I can come back. I've had major injuries that have taken me out for a pretty similar period of time.
Right.
And I was just very committed from the beginning of my pregnancy to staying in shape. I danced on point in class until my due date.
Yes, I saw those videos. You were doing 32 fouettes.
32 fouettes.
32 fouettes and belly.
You know what? Ironically, though, like fouettes were easier because of the momentum. I could do them, but if I had to go forth and try to do a double or triple pirouette, I was like, oh my God. But if I could just like get the momentum going, it was fine. It was really weird. I really like fouettes. They're like one of the, I felt somehow in my body very comfortable with them. Certain other things I would definitely not do. Like inside pirouettes, I was like, absolutely not.
Yes. I love that. You know, I kind of want to know, you know, so like, what are some of the things that, you know, you would say that you are most proud of, you know, throughout your career, your journey, that you know, could think of that you could share?
I am very proud of myself for taking Edward Liang's advice. My first
what did he say?
I was understudying this ballet called Puro Maneuvers that has two soloist women in it, and Ed was a soloist guy. And one of those women went out, and this is 1 year after it was choreographed, so nobody else had done the parts. And I was called to learn the soloist, but I'd only been to 15 minutes of a rehearsal because I had so many other ballets. And when this woman went out, I definitely didn't know the ballet. But Ed went up to me and said, "Go tell them you know it." And it's my first season after Nutcracker with the company in the winter of 2001, I think. And I was like, "But I don't know it." And he goes, "Do you have an hour or two to go to the tape room and learn it?" And I said, "Yeah, I have a break." And he's like, "Then go tell him you know it." And I was like, okay. So I walked up and I told the ballet master that I knew it. And he looked at me like, "You know it." He's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, see you at 6.
Wow.
Like, see you at 6 on stage for the, you know, an emergency rehearsal. And I was like, okay. I went to that tape room. I learned that ballet and I did it that night.
Wow.
That I think directly correlated to the next season in May when Margaret Tracy went out of Firebird and there was nobody available to dance that knew the ballet. They just put me in it. They taught it to me in 2 hours and they just trusted me and put me out there that night. And that was really a taking off point for me in my career. And after that, the roles kind of rolled in.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, what advice could you give to dancers who are entering their first year in a ballet company? Is there any, you know, specific advice that you might want to give them? Because, you know, you just shared some very powerful moments, you know, that happened in your career in the very beginning. I mean, I'm sure that some advice, you know, if you have any, I'm sure.
I think it's, you know, really respect the people who were there before you. They know what they're doing. They've been through a lot more than you can ever imagine at that age.
Yeah.
And listen to them. And, you know, if they're rude or mean, you're probably doing something wrong, like you're standing in the wrong spot. Like, you know, people get territorial over bar spots or things, but just try to take everything in stride. Listen to the people who've really been there. Maintain your friends on the outside. Keep an anchor to the outside world.
Yeah.
in case you feel like you're drowning there, you need someone to bail you out. You need something else to go to. You need to be able to call someone or go have dinner with somebody that has nothing to do with what you do.
Yeah.
And I think, keep your head down, work hard, buy a lot of Epsom salt and take baths because you're going to
Right.
take care of that body, get into physical therapy. Don't wear dead point shoes, ladies. You're going to injure yourself. Sometimes we're like so used to being in student mode that we think we can get away with it, and that's not true. And I don't know, just be aware of what's happening around you. Try to be super aware of where you stand within the company and what your expectations are, and try to manage. And, I think that if you find you don't fit in with the company or the people who are in charge there, because they're going to be in charge for a while. So
Right.
if you don't get along with them, don't fight them. If they don't like you or what kind of dancer you are, or they don't see you as the soloist or principal you think you want to be, explore your options, because the sooner you're happy with where you are, the better you're going to do, and you're going to dance better. And sometimes the first company you get into is not for you.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people who come into New York City Valley and they leave after a couple of years and they go somewhere and they're really happy.
That's great.
And sometimes the best thing is you find out early that that's not where you fit, and then you find this amazing career somewhere else. So it's, your first choice might not always be their first choice.
Right.
And if you're okay with being in the core, because the core is a lot bigger than soloists and principals, if you're okay with being there and doing all of that work, that's wonderful. And you stay there and you find your little spot in the company and you've got your friends and where you fit in, that's fine. But if you don't find it, be open to looking for what you actually want.
That's right.
What's most important is that you're happy.
Exactly.
And that you're dancing where you want to be. There, I've seen a lot of people who are miserable until they leave. And sometimes you're so focused on this one company, being in this one company, and you get there and it's nothing like you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. No, that, amen. He said it. Yeah, it's so important. Explore your options. It's all about your happiness, your peace of mind, finding your own joy.
At the end of the day, when you go out there on stage, it's only you and what you're thinking. Yeah. Nobody's, yeah, you can be dancing with somebody else, or in a group, but you're responsible for how you feel out there and how you're dancing. And if you're not good here, you're not good here either.
Yeah. So true. So true. Well, Ashley, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. I just want to say one thing, though. Talk to me about Dewdrop. Did you ever think it was going to go viral?
No, and I get tagged all the time, no matter what time of the year it is.
Yeah.
This Dewdrop. But, I have a funny story. In the last couple minutes, when I've been doing Dewdrop at CPIB since I was 13. And
right.
Two funny stories. Meryl Ashley actually did my makeup for my first show. And she taught the warm-up class, and I did a split in stretching, and I had my crown on, and I bent backwards, and I got my crown stuck to my tights. And so I had to borrow tights from somebody because I didn't have another pair because I ripped out all my tights.
Yeah.
For that, my first performance of Dewdrop at New York City Ballet, I fell on my face in the first entrance. I did a touriste. I'm 17 years old. I was so excited. This is what I'm talking about, that ball of energy I have. I did a touriste. I went smack on my face.
Wow.
And then actually that year, John Stafford, who is now my boss and was my colleague at the time in the Corps, and it's also from CPIB, came up and said, it just looks like this role was made for you. And I didn't remember that until just now, which is very funny. But I love that part. I love jumping and spinning.
Yes.
I love that little fast footwork. And I think that part is so fun.
Yes. So thank you.
Way more than Sugar Plum.
Well, we're about to run out of time, but thank you, Ashley, for being so transparent and honest. I respect that. Thank you just for being, a change agent. Thank you for, the work that you're doing with the Ashley Bouder Project. Thank you for being just that outspoken artist Right. It's important that we have those artists out there who use their platforms, to speak out against, the things that are, are not right.